It's Tuesday, May 18th, and this is now on HNN.
This fall, all Hawaii public school students will return to campuses for daily in-person learning.
This as Oahu parents are now allowed to watch their children's games from the sidelines.
Maui health officials say they're seeing more cases of a COVID-19 variant.
Plus, we'll give you a sneak peek at the Rainbow Warrior football team's temporary home on the Manoa campus. These stories and more coming up on This Is Now.
This just in, the U.S. House passed a bill to combat hate crimes against Asian Americans. The legislation assigns an official in the Justice Department to review and expedite reports of hate crimes related to COVID-19 and expand support for state and local law enforcement. President Biden is expected to sign the bill into law.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome inside This Is Now. Alongside Ashley Nagaoka, I'm Ian Schuring, filling in for Jonathan Soppy. We're going to start today with the latest coronavirus numbers.
That's right. The state is reporting 56 new COVID infections and 0 fatalities. The breakdown by island shows 3 cases on Kauai, 1 on Maui, 1 on Molokai, 49 on Oahu, and 2 people were diagnosed out of state. Meanwhile, more than a year after Hawaii moved to distance learning for public school students, the state has set a date to resume daily in-person learning for all grades. Sammy Salina has all the details.
Parents, principals, and the teachers union told us that they're all happy with the fact that public schools will be returning back to in-person learning in August. But they said that transition doesn't come without challenges.
As you know, students need to be in school. It's been a challenging year for everybody, and everybody's come together and stepped up. But we're looking forward to all students in school all day, every day, starting in the fall.
A spokesperson for the Department of Education said they won't be offering full distance learning. Families can work with schools if certain exceptions need to be made, but fear of COVID is not an excuse. Some want to see flexibility with that rule.
I think now that with the devices and the investment that we've made in connectivity, I don't see why students wouldn't be able to take at least some parts of their courses online if they want.
And while public schools will make the transition in August, some of Hawaii's classrooms are already back to full in-person learning.
We opened last fall, beginning of August, and have been open ever since. You know, we all understand the importance of in-person learning and the fact that distance learning can have some adverse effects. So it was really important to do it and to do it safely.
The announcement comes amid a strong push to vaccinate Hawaii's children 12 and up. Sammy Solina for This Is Now.
At Honolulu Hale today, Mayor Rick Blangiardi gave the City Council an update on the city's tier system. He says they're working on new metrics and language for the reopening strategy.
We don't want to throw away the system until we feel like we're completely out of the woods.
Blangiardi says he's learned that UH economists have revised their tourism forecast for this year. He says they are now projecting 6.5 million visitors, up from 5 million, and that doesn't include the global market.
Because we're not ready for that. We're not really, quite honestly. We lost 40% of our restaurant trade. Many are going to reopen. Some are trying to reopen. They're having staffing issues, whatever. So each and every day, in the spirit of our top priority being economic recovery, I look at our movements in the tier system to be absolutely integral to our abilities to get on with our lives. So we have pushed this very far and will continue to push.
Maui is seeing more cases of the Brazilian variant. Maui's Department of Health office confirms that the mutant strain is popping up more frequently in lab tests. It's believed to be more transmissible than the California variant. The California strain was fueling the outbreak at Maui's prison earlier this year. Scientists say the COVID vaccines are effective against both strains. You can get tested free of charge on Molokai today. Molokai General Hospital is offering free testing from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. No appointments are necessary. A cluster tied to the hospital includes 12 people. A Maui-based contractor who is working on a closed-off section of the facility initially tested positive last week. We're told none of the infected individuals were vaccinated.
Kauai health officials are pushing to vaccinate young children.
People may be asking themselves, is vaccinating these young people the right thing to do? I think about vaccine decisions as a mother, as a pediatrician, and as a public health physician. Children can require hospitalization and intensive care, and the disease can even be fatal. Vaccine prevents infection and severe disease. The risk of disease is far greater than the risk of vaccine side effects.
Kauai leads the state in vaccinations. 62% have received at least one dose. 55% are fully vaccinated. Mayor Derek Kawakami says he's looking at getting the island back into the least restrictive tier as case counts continue to fall. We're getting a new look this morning at the temporary home of Rainbow Warrior football. UH released new renderings this morning showing some of the planned improvements for the TC Ching Athletic Complex. Seating capacity will get bumped up to about 9,000, and the school is adding press boxes and hospitality suites. The turf is brand new as well. The first game scheduled at Ching Field is September 4th against Portland State.
A big win for parents. Spectators are now allowed at outdoor sporting events on Oahu. This went into effect immediately after yesterday's announcement from Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi. The mayor says he does not believe any cases are tied to outdoor sports on Oahu. Hawaii Senator Brian Schatz was key in getting Governor Ige to sign off on this. He appeared on Sunrise earlier this morning to discuss the decision.
Well, it's a big deal for families. You know, so many parents and grandparents and uncles and aunties were either sitting there in their car or dropping off a young child to go to the mall or to go home and then come back 2 hours later. There's nothing safe about that. There's nothing healthy about that. And this was about following the science. The science indicates that outdoor activities are the safest things we could possibly be doing during a pandemic where the disease itself is airborne. And so, you know, everybody understood the absurdity of this rule, and I'm just glad that it's gone now.
Yeah, and Senator, just from what we saw at soccer practice yesterday, this is a source of great joy for a lot of families. But that said, there are some people that are still going to have concerns. In the news recently, we had families come back from the mainland, from tournaments, the pylon tournament in particular, that had contracted the virus. Why are we so confident going forward that this is going to be safe?
Well, I don't think we can be 100% confident that we're going to be living in a zero COVID context. But I think we can be 100% confident that being outdoors and socially distanced in the trade winds is one of the safest activities that there is, and that the risk of getting COVID in a context like that is probably much lower than the risk of having a catastrophic car accident on the way to the ball field. And so this is about managing risk, not eliminating risk, because, you know, society is full of risk, including public health risk. And we don't shut down all of society, for instance, to make sure that the number of flu deaths we have goes all the way to zero. We should work as hard as we can to get it as close to zero as possible, but we don't start banning activities because, you know, there's a spike in flu. We manage the disease, and we are, because of the success we've had with vaccinations, we're getting to the point where either we're going to reach herd immunity or the baseline case rate is going to be low enough where we're going to be able to just deal with this like it's another public health risk, a very real one, but not one that is worth shutting everything down over.
While you have both people on looking at whether this is a good thing to do, some people say that this is paying favors to certain sports because you're excluding things like surfing and outrigger competitions.
Yeah, I agree with that. The letter that I sent to the governor indicated that they're going to have to deal with those sports that were handled yesterday through the governor's executive order, and then separately with outrigger canoe paddling and surfing. But that's just a kind of an administrative question about where that resides in the executive order. But they've got to fix that too. My anticipation is that will be fixed by the end of the week as well. Certainly surfing and outrigger canoe paddling are among the most COVID-safe activities that you could possibly imagine.
There's a COVID outbreak on the New York Yankees. Multiple cases involving vaccinated individuals have been reported, leading to questions about the league's health and safety protocols. Stephanie Gosk has more.
Soft ground ball right side and through for a base hit.
Like a ground ball slipping through the infield, breakthrough cases, when fully vaccinated people get COVID, are supposed to be rare. But now 9 members of the New York Yankees, including shortstop Gleyber Torres, have tested positive for the virus in the last week. Only one person was sick with just mild symptoms. They all received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Obviously, we've been rocked here the last several days, so just trying to handle it and as best we can.
It all started on May 11th in Tampa, the beginning of a 10-day road trip. Before the game, the team announced the third base coach was positive. By the end of the game, there were 2 more cases. The next day, the number was up to 7. On Thursday, shortstop Torres was added to the list. 3 days later, the 9th positive test result.
How can the vaccine be working if you have 9 people associated with this team get the virus after they were vaccinated?
Well, we always knew that the main goal of the vaccine was to keep us out of the hospital. We don't want to die. We don't want to be in the intensive care unit.
The team is, in some respects, the perfect test case for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which has shown to be 72% effective. The organization does saliva testing multiple times each day. Health officials, including the CDC, say the number of positive cases isn't actually surprising.
I think these results are even better than I would have expected because there's a much larger group of people who are associated with the Yankees and travel with them. This is actually a pretty small number.
But unlike professional sports, most workplaces do not test daily, meaning positive cases, even among those people fully vaccinated, can go undetected.
Should that make people a little bit nervous?
I think it should make them careful. Make sure that anybody who has symptoms gets tested.
Recent research shows that fully vaccinated people are unlikely to transmit the virus, which is why there is new mask guidance. But the Bronx bombers outbreak, experts say, is a reminder that the vaccines are not perfect.
The U.S. military is relaxing mask-wearing guidelines on all Hawaii bases. Indo-PACOM says effective immediately, all fully vaccinated personnel no longer need to wear masks while on base, either inside or outdoors. Service members still need to mask up when off base because of the state's mask mandate, and non-vaccinated personnel are still required to wear them as well. We told you yesterday about some changes coming to Las Vegas as mask mandates evolve. We have a report from the ground, and it's a friendly face. Here's Jonathan Soppy.
What's up, guys? Coming to you from downtown Las Vegas. Made a little stop here on my way home to visit some family for the few days that I have off. Some much needed and grateful time off, so thanks again for filling in. I want to show you what it looks like here on the ground. Obviously, I decided to still wear my mask even though I'm fully vaccinated. And that's sort of the vibe people have to decide on here. Take a look at this sign right here. It says mask guidelines. Guests and employees who are fully vaccinated are no longer required to wear masks. I have to say, from looking around, a lot of people are choosing not to wear those masks. Some changes at the hotel too. We just walked by the pool and they've changed their mask guidance there, at least here at the Golden Nugget. Before this week, you had to wear a mask even when you're sitting at the pool until you got in the water. Obviously, from the video I'm showing you now, that is not the case anymore. Let's take you outside now to the street and show you what it looks like there. So here we are, Fremont Street. Not a lot of people on the ground right now, but I had to say, walking through here last night, when I got to town, it was pretty busy. It was quite busy, actually. Not pre-pandemic levels, but a good-sized crowd, and it was the biggest crowd I've been in over a year and a half for sure. Again, I've chosen to wear my mask just to be safe, but you can see a lot of people are taking advantage of those new guidelines and choosing not to. And that's what you're going to have to look for if you decide to take a trip to Vegas, is really look around at the policies. We have them posted on our H&N digital platforms. Billy V ran through them yesterday, as you mentioned, and a lot of differences hotel to hotel. A lot of shows aren't open back up, so you got to keep that in mind. A lot of activities are still closed. So really plan it out if you're planning your trip to Vegas. And in case you're wondering how I'm doing on my luck, not so good. Not so good. A little better luck when I was visiting Grandma, though, at the bingo hall, and I won a whole $50. You guys, back to you. We'll see you then.
President Biden has released his 2020 tax returns. He and his wife Jill earned slightly more than $600,000 last year. They paid 26% in federal taxes after donating about $30,000 to charity. Vice President Kamala Harris and her husband earned nearly $1.7 million and paid a tax rate of 36%. Prosecutors have charged William Woods with attempted murder for allegedly setting a man on fire while he slept in downtown Honolulu. Court documents say he tried to kill Jimmy Vaiangai last week. He was hospitalized in critical condition with life-threatening burns. Woods is being held without bail and is due back in court next Monday.
The Honolulu Police Department is looking for witnesses to a shooting in Nanakuli. A 53-year-old man and a 30-year-old man were both hospitalized after an argument turned violent on Hakimo Road early Sunday morning. Anyone with tips should call Honolulu Crime Stoppers at 955-8300. Critics say the City Ethics Commission made the wrong call when it cleared the rail board chair of a conflict of interest. That's because he actually voted for a bond sale that benefited his company. Rick Daysog reports.
Toby Martin is the chairman of the Rail Authority's board, but he's also a vice president and Honolulu branch manager for Stifel Financial Corp.
This relates to the approval of the issuance of the state GO bonds for HART purposes.
Back in January 2020, he voted with the rest of HART's board to approve more than $292 million in bonds to fund construction on the rail project. But Hawaii News Now has learned that his firm was one of 8 investment companies hired to sell those bonds, mostly to Wall Street institutional investors, meaning the rail chairman financially benefited from the sale of the rail bonds.
This is very specific. A board member voting on something involving his company is wrong.
Common Cause Hawaii board member and longtime investigative reporter Ian Lynn says city laws bar any city officials from voting on matters that they have a financial interest in. Neither the city or Martin's firm would tell us how much in fees the firm received from the sale of the rail bonds, but experts tell us the fees are usually in the range of tens of thousands of dollars. Martin declined comment, but in a filing with the City Ethics Commission more than 5 months after the vote, he said as HART's chair, quote, "It is my understanding that I have no authority to directly affect Stifel regarding any bond issue." The company argued that the bonds were issued by the city and that the rail board had no role in picking who sold the bonds. Quote, Mr. Martin's participation in the HART board was in no way a conflict of interest. Stifel nonetheless disclosed Mr. Martin's role to the city and the senior managing underwriter for the bonds. The City Ethics Commission agreed, saying it found no conflict in Martin's vote.
I don't understand how they came up with that ruling. There's no justification that I saw provided in the documentation.
Hawaii News Now political analyst Colin Moore says the Ethics Commission was incorrect.
I think there's absolutely a conflict here. As chairman of HART, he is indirectly involved in these decisions, and his firm is benefiting from bond sales.
The City Ethics Commission had no immediate comment. Rick Daysog, Hawaii News Now.
Let's take you live outside now with a look towards Aloha Tower and Honolulu Harbor. Lots of blue skies and sunshine on your Aloha Tuesday. What does the rest of your work week forecast look like? Let's send it over to Guy Hagi.
How's it on this Tuesday? The trade wind weather pattern continues. That means a few windward and Mauka showers. That's coming through from time to time through the day. Rainfall totals, however, will be very, very light because whatever rain comes in will be moving along quickly because of the breezy trade winds. So today's going to look much like yesterday. Lots of sunshine, a few showers in the morning, intermittent showers throughout the day. But all in all, we're going to see a very, very nice day. And those trade wind speeds, 15 to 25 miles an hour today. And that means it's going to be a little bit choppy with some wind swell on the east side. A small little boost is due into the country. Maybe some head high sets when all said and done, and decent conditions for that country swell. So we've got decent conditions, actually fine conditions, really nice weather all the way through Saturday. And then the disturbance could bring us a few more showers as well as lighter winds for the first part of next week. But until then, we're in for a nice long stretch of the best weather on the planet. We'll have more details on air and online.
Thank you so much, Guy. A programming note for everyone watching: at 11 a.m. tomorrow, the National Weather Service will release its 2021 Hurricane Outlook. Now, forecasters will reveal their forecast for the season, which begins in the Central Pacific on June 1st. We will carry the forecast live online and on our Facebook page, and our weather team will be on hand to break down all that data once the presentation is finished.
A couple of really close calls last year. At least one that beeline, last minute turn up. Not quite sure what we're expecting from that forecast tomorrow, but we are going to carry that thing in its entirety, and we'll bring the whole thing to you.
Yeah.
Let's take a look now at what we're seeing from the feeds. I wanted to share with you guys a story that was published yesterday in the New York Times. It was headlined, "I'm not anti-anything, I'm pro-Hawaii. Here's the story. In the world of pro surfing, because of Hawaii's legacy in the sport, Hawaii surfers don't compete under the American flag. They're really treated as two separate entities. When you turn on the Pipe Masters or the Billabong Pro or any of these tournaments, guys like Kelly Slater, who's from Florida, surfs under the American flag. John Florence, who's from Hawaii, surfs under the Hawaiian flag. So that brings us now to the Olympics, which are obviously about competing for your country. It's a country, USA wins gold, not individuals.
Right.
Florence told the New York Times for this story, quote, "There's a little bit of tension with that." He says he's not interested in dividing anyone. He understands that tensions about that can be a little bit high, but just that he wants to represent Hawaii the same way that he always does. Carissa Moore, who is Native Hawaiian, quoted in that story about, again, not really wanting to get political, not really trying to make any waves, but to be honest, really pleased with the ability that the WSL affords them to compete for their state, right, for their home and compete under that Hawaiian flag. That's something that's obviously not going to happen at the Olympics this year. They're all going to, if you're competing for the U.S., you're going to compete under the U.S. flag. But bringing up some conversations about how places like Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory but not a state, they get to field their own Olympic team, and there's a team Puerto Rico at the Olympics and things like that. So pretty interesting take on surfing and the Olympics.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool. Our guy Jason Momoa has found a new gig. He's bringing his On the Roam YouTube blog to the Discovery Channel. Now, People reports the new series will follow him as he searches for, quote, artists and dreamers who have mastered their individual crafts. Now, he'll also serve as executive producer of the series, and his team has actually been producing these On the Roam videos for years. This one was filmed when Momoa was here in Hawaii promoting Aquaman. Premiere date for the series has not been announced.
His production staff, for at least for this special that we're watching right now from YouTube, also was comprised of Hawaii guys.
Very cool.
Yeah, bringing the local people into the fold and shooting. Some of the content that they produce is really, really compelling, really high quality, and for such an interesting guy, right? I mean, Jason Momoa flies all around the world and does. You talk about the most interesting man in the world, right? He qualifies.
He's very cool.
All right, one more thing we're looking at from the feeds. Ohio, they're beginning to undertake registrations now for the state's vaccination lottery. Any Ohio resident who has been vaccinated against the coronavirus can enter to win $1 million. Woo! They're giving away 5 of those prizes in 5 consecutive weeks. Students can also enter to win a full scholarship to any public Ohio college or university. The program was announced earlier this month as an incentive for Ohio residents to get the COVID vaccine. I would imagine that it's working. If you say you've got a chance at winning $1 million,
I know.
Probably take advantage of that.
That's a good idea. You guys, Hawaii's own Bretman Rock, he stole the stage last night at the MTV Movie and TV Awards. Let's take a look. Well, the 22-year-old YouTube sensation and beauty vlogger now has his own MTV reality series called MTV's Following Bretman Rock, and it gives viewers an unfiltered day in the life of a look at the Campbell High grad and his inner circle.
Hey guys, I've never prepared a speech before, so what I'm about to say is unscripted or whatever. I would like to thank everyone that watched me grow up on the internet. It's probably the most
unscripted
there
or whatever.
He is, so much personality. That's going to do it for us on This Is Now, you guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow.